Okay, let's get down to how did I use this to write a story? First thing I did is I went through the beat sheet here, and figured out what my various different beats were. Now, because this is a short story, there were a couple of different beats that I skipped over. Uh, in a short story, you don't have time for a B plot story, plot line there. So, and then fun and games, which is something unique to the buddy love stories. I didn't have time in the short story to do that part of things. So some of these are left with the original text. But the ones that did apply to my story, that fit the story, I did fill out here. And again, you can go left or right this way, or you can, if you need to skip over and go to the B story, it's right here. And when you hover over it, it tells you what's already in that box. They enter the house. Ooh, scary. Okay, so so now we have the cards. This is probably the most helpful part of things that I found. This is my kind of blank one that I left. I did not fill in this part. So I clicked on here and it loads them all kind of stacked. You can see my slow computer doing that. And you've got, I just called this heading the classroom so I could see what it was. This is where I would write my outliney kind of stuff, jot down the ideas for it. And then over here, I could write down, this was the positive, negative, emotional change. So let me show you. The emotional change is right here. And it went over to my other screen. So I've got that here, and then you've got the conflicts and the emotional change over here, any important details. Shot list, this is if you're writing a screenplay and you need to write down the different kinds of shots that you need, but I obviously didn't use that. You have different types of things here, different boards, different characters, things, relationships. We looked at those before in the other video. But here, I actually at first thought this was just an outlining tool. And then I realized they've got this here. And so you can actually type your story right here. And this was just because I was copying and pasting instead of actually composing here. But, and the indenting is a little bit shallow for my liking. So I'd have to play with that a little bit. But you can see you can play with it and adjust it as needed. Now, the one tricky thing that I discovered is the save button. This is the only time you have to save anything. If you go on and close out this window and you don't press save, then you lose what you've typed here. This will be okay, but this will be gone. So I have a feeling eventually they'll work on that and get rid of the save button so that you can do that. And you can do page width or whatever you're most comfortable with. You could also change if you want to shrink that down so you have a little bit more of your page visible. You could do that. And let's shrink it down even more. I like seeing it a little bigger overview. And I like this. The notes over here are helpful. And then I typed it all over here, so that's good. One thing I like with this view is that I went through for each scene and I looked at what's causing the conflict and then what the emotional change was. Now with a short story, the scenes are not even whole scenes when you map this out. According to the 15 beats, or there's probably 10 or so beats here. And so there may be just a paragraph or 2 or 3 in some of these. So there's not a lot of change within the scene, but it was good to see an overarching view of the whole thing and how different things were causing conflict in each scene, because it's always good to make sure you have some kind of conflict in most every scene. So in the opening scene, the sprites are causing trouble. That carries over into the hallway as they're walking down to the gym. Then once they get to the gym, you've got the troll. This is the big bad guy. And I'm going to resize this so that it all fits on one screen, so it's easier to see the big view. Okay. And then over here, now we've got Joan, who has inserted herself into the situation, and Albert doesn't want this annoying girl tagging along. And then he gets home and he's seeking knowledge from the dragon. So there's not really conflict there. But yeah, and this was a scene that maybe I could have thrown out, but dragons, come on, I had to keep that. That was my one indulgence. And I fought for that because I had some people saying it's not necessary, but I made it necessary. It's good. And then can't find or catch up with the troll is another conflict. And then Joan inserts herself again and quote unquote helps. Now they're entering the house and they're worried that the stranger might wake up or that the troll might hurt them. Now he's battling the troll here. Then the neighbor points the gun. Spoiler! And then they get scolded by Albert's mom. And then the final, I even have conflict in the final scene. Joan has decided that he is her friend and he's stuck with her. She is not going to leave him alone. But he has also decided maybe that's not so bad. He's kind of a grumpy character. He hates pep rallies. I didn't put an emotional change there because he just still hates pep rallies. Then he fails. Oh my goodness. He fails to defeat the troll. So this really should kind of go here. I didn't put an emotional change there. I didn't put it in most of the rest of them. Success. He's happy for once because he defeated the troll. Yay. But now he's the next instant he's terrified because the neighbor that he saved his life and the neighbor doesn't even know it. So he's feeling kind of irked because there's no gratitude. His mom's yelling at him and he's like, hey, I just saved the neighborhood, but nobody knows it because only Albert and Joan can see all this fae magic stuff. And so then he decides maybe at the end it's not so bad because now somebody else can see and know what he does. And maybe she'll help. So there is kind of how I went through it. Oh, printing. Let me show you how this looks printed out. Current beat sheet. You could include notes. I don't really have notes, so it won't do any good to show that. But this is nice. It shows you and it labels the different beats for you. And some of these I didn't put into specific beats. Like I said, there were some beats that I skipped over and some of them I just kind of ignored and whatnot. So I do have a final image and whatnot, but I didn't use the card that was labeled final image. So that was my mistake. Sorry. So I could print that, or you can actually print the whole manuscript. So, and this, no, I don't want to actually print it. This actually comes out when it's double spaced like this, 17 pages. So it shows all the different, oh, and this was the card that I didn't write. So it's telling me that there's one card that's not written. So that's good. So if you forget to write a scene, you'll know it because that shows up like that. It won't just skip over it. So there you go. It doesn't have the title or anything, but I guess you could make a card with the title or something. Or type it in the first scene, type the title. That would be good. But it's also got it up here at the top, which I can't highlight apparently. So there's that. Print. You could print out your character list, your biographies, location setups, payoffs. You can do, where did it go? Not the log line. Scenes. You could print out scenes like the cards. So let's look at that. Oh, I checked include characters. So no, there we go. It's coming. There we go. So now this is like the index card where it's got the header, the description of the scene, the change, the conflict, the next header, and so forth. And it's got the page number where they fall. So there's that. We've got page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that's it. So you could print those out. If you wanted to go old school and just spread it out on the floor or on an actual corkboard, you could do that. I like the digital corkboard. You can also change the backgrounds. There's so much that this does. It's kind of like Scrivener in that, with the corkboard definitely is like Scrivener. And there's so many features that I haven't even touched on. I've kind of looked at. I could get lost for days in all the different features, the label. But I think those were the most useful things for me. I'm sure other people will gravitate towards different things. And I should have put this in the first video. There are really, really useful videos. The very beginning when you first start out, I highly recommend watching all of these videos. They're very good, very well explained, showing you what to do. Okay. So that's all I have to show you, I think, for that. Overall, I like the program. I like its flexibility. I like all the different features. A little bit overwhelming, but a little bit of a learning curve. Not as steep as the Scrivener learning curve. It's a little more user-friendly than that one, I think. So just a lot of features.